All right. Our discussion today is going to be about functional energy. It's a topic that I'm pretty passionate about, as my journey started with understanding this kind of concept and allowed me to solve a lot of my own issues. So, functional energy, unleashing the ultimate resource beyond time and money. Today, I'm basically going to try to make an argument that functional energy is more important than time and money. So, good luck to me. A little bit about myself. I'm a dentist and I'm a business coach. What is a dentist here talking about functional energy doing? I own two dental offices and a business coaching practice where I help dentists grow and scale their dental practice, how to get out of the dental chair, how to create more time for themselves. My methodology is very much rooted in how do I optimize that person so that they can achieve the goals that they have in life. So if everyone has a pen and paper, our first exercise today is to count the number of times you have not flossed in your life. That is what we're going to do. Just kidding. We're not going to do that today. We're not going to talk about teeth today. We're going to talk about functional energy. So I'm going to start with giving some background information about myself and start with a story here. Before I get into it, just want to give you a little disclaimer. You can have a read at that. But basically, long story short, I am not your RD. I'm not your real doctor. I'm not your physician. So all the information that you're hearing today is for entertainment or educational purposes. You definitely want to consult your doctor or doctors before you implement things. Our knowledge is going to be based on the evidence that we've read, our experiences, our things that we've researched. And so keep that in mind, please. So back to me. I want to start our discussion today about functional medicine by going back in time and kind of describing some of my experiences 6 years ago. 6 years ago, we were in South Carolina. Dr. Faustine Din, who's my wife, she was in residency, and we moved away from South Carolina to Georgia. That's where we're from. We moved to Georgia, and I wanted to purchase a dental practice. And that was a big step for me. At the time when I first purchased the office, it was pretty stressful. There were a lot of things we were doing all the time. I kind of felt like I felt that like burnt out feeling a lot. I basically felt like I couldn't control myself in terms of I wanted to do a lot of work, more work than I was actually doing, but I couldn't focus. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. But of course, right? And we do this. We do this thing where we justify why we feel the way that we do. And for me, it was, well, of course I'm stressed out, burnt out, and all of these things. You know, I just bought a dental practice. I mean, I don't know anything about owning a dental practice. This is my first time. And so back in those days when my blood was younger and I had less accumulation of birthdays, that burnt out feeling caused me to avoid a lot of things. I would avoid doing chores. I didn't connect with my family well. I didn't feel as much fulfillment and happiness, right? And like a lot of people, what they do is they say, oh, well, it's because you bought the dental practice. What I didn't realize was that there were underlying things that were causing me to feel those types of issues. So for me, during that time, my solution for it, because I had less focus and had less energy, was to listen to a bunch of podcasts. I would study voraciously. I would listen to like 6 hours of podcasts a day on my drive, brushing my teeth. I would study some of the top entrepreneurs of our society. I would, people like Tony Robbins, Bill Gates, his routines, stuff like that. High-level nutritionists like Sean Stevenson, et cetera, and I try to create my own routine to increase my own energy. I don't recommend this for people, but basically what I had to do was, and it came out of need because it was very stressful during those times. I would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I would get a 30-minute exercise in. I would do cold showers, which I have to say, the cold showers are very brutal during the wintertime. Very painful, very painful. I would journal, I would do meditation, I would make smoothies, and this was every single day. Basically, every single day, I did not want to feel that heavy pressure, anxiety feeling, dread, lack of energy, control of self. Anytime I wanted to optimize that, I did that routine. Okay. But it was difficult. What I realized later down the road was that I was not optimizing for the correct thing. I didn't have energy, but I just wanted to solve what I currently knew. It's kind of like when you're cooking. Back during those residency days when Dr. Faustine Din was in residency, I would do some of the cooking, and sometimes I'd have a recipe and I would try to cook the thing that I wanted to cook. But sometimes, I'm sure there's people out there that cook in the group here, but sometimes you don't have the right ingredients to make the meal. And so what I would do is I would try to find an alternative for it. Sometimes it would work out, sometimes it would not, like sugar is an easy, if you don't have sugar, you can do brown sugar or honey, but sometimes it didn't work out the way I wanted to. And as a result, the food might not have been very edible, but given that Faustine was working, 18-hour days, sometimes she would just have to suck it up and eat it. And so she would tell me, she would eat the food, smile, and tell me that she loves me. That's how I know I have a lovely wife, because she's probably saying I love you, not to say it to me, but to say it to herself, to like motivate her to eat the food. Oh, this is terrible, it's not even edible, but I'm gonna eat it anyways. So love you too, honey. So yeah, I was for me, I was not solving for the right thing. I did not have the ingredients. I was solving for a different thing. And so luckily, I have a lovely wife that got out of conventional medicine and seeked a higher form of medicine. And I was able to solve some of these issues, which is the topic of our discussion for today. Give me 1 second here. When I had solved these things, it basically was like obtaining a new sixth sense. Kind of like if you were not able to hear, but all of a sudden you could hear again. If you're not able to see, but all of a sudden you could see again. Maybe not that drastic, because I think that's pretty extreme, but maybe a degree lower than that. After I solved my issues, I was able to connect with myself more. I realized that heavy feeling that I was experiencing was a form of anxiety. I was able to improve my self-awareness around it. Not only was I able to identify the triggers of my cause of anxiety and really connect with my own body, I would be able to kind of see myself, figure out the triggers, come up with the solutions, and then catch myself in mid-sentence of feeling anxiety and reverse it. But I wasn't able to have that level of self-awareness because I did not have the functional energy to allow myself to feel that. Let me say that again. I did not have the proper functional energy to even allow myself to overcome these things. And so while I was trying to mindset my way through everything and change my physical biochemistry by waking up at 4 a.m., doing all these crazy things, getting tortured by the cold showers and stuff like that, it was something else. It was something else. So I had a lot more alignment. Alignment, and I was connected to that alignment. So has anyone been out of alignment before? Have you ever been in the wrong field before? Have you ever worked for the wrong boss before? Have you ever hung out with friends that you didn't particularly like, but you did it anyways? Like that's what I'm speaking on in terms of being out of alignment. Do you have any hobbies that you did that were not actually clicking? You just kind of did it. And it looks like Parissa said, yeah, optimizing breathing and vagus nerve activation. That is super deep stuff, Parissa. And we're going to go through some of the breathing stuff, but yes, that is something you can absolutely do to assist in the functional energy realm. So like I said before, I am a dentist, but I've been on the journey of studying myself for the last 10 years to figure out how to be the best version of myself. I wanted to be the best entrepreneur because I have employees I want to take care of. I wanted to be the best husband and the best father, because I have a family I want to take care of. And so really dialing myself in and kind of learning how to optimize my functional energy is and was the most important thing for me. And so I have a passion for teaching. And so I welcome each and every single one of you here today. I've been a coach my entire life and a teacher my entire life, in a sense. I have a passion for soccer. I played soccer for about 30 years. I was a coach for the Vietnamese community, coaching individuals between the ages of 2 and 14. In dental school, I'd be the guy that would give up my Saturdays in order to teach people dentistry. My passion comes from not wanting people to go through suffering, that I have gone through myself, because I realized what the cost was. There's a huge cost in terms of time and money that's wasted. So that is the reason why I'm here today. And I just wanted to welcome everyone and thank all of you guys for investing in your own knowledge and your own health. So let us begin. Enough with the intros. Let's get to the good stuff. All right. So functional energy. This is our definition. This is our working definition of functional energy. It's a term that we use in our clinic to help people connect with themselves better. All right. In order to get 100% on a test, there's an infinite amount of work in terms of the difference between the 100 and the 80, right? Getting an 80 on a test versus an 85, 90, 92, 94, 96, 98, and 100. So it's all in the nuance. And that's why we're defining it here for you today, because it's a way for you all to connect with yourself a little bit better. So what is functional energy? Functional energy is the specific energy resource utilized that allows you to have full control of yourself to accomplish difficult tasks. Said a different way, it's the energy that allows you to do stuff. You guys ever have that feeling where you're like, I just don't feel like doing that thing? Lack of functional energy. There's ways to optimize that. So there's a couple of different sides to analyzing functional energy. One side is the biochemical. This is where Dr. Din specializes in. With high-level testing, she's able to measure your hormones, your neurotransmitters, and your biochemical molecules to create an objective measurement of those things that relate to functional energy. All right. The things that influence the control of self. All right. The other component to it is the mental part, right? You can have the biochemistry, but if you don't have the mindset, if you don't have the framework, you're unable to convert that biochemistry into the results that you want. Okay. That's where my expertise comes in. I feel like I'm very introspective when trying to figure out my own problems. And so going on my own journey and being a coach, this is something that I'm passionate about. So in order to get the results, you have to actually fuse both of those things and create actions and create positive infinite feedback loops. And so this is our working definition of functional energy. Does anyone have any questions? Just as a reminder, feel free to type it in the chat, and I'll try my best to look to the side and try to see that. Okay. All right. So I feel that the best way to improve and increase your learning is to have an application. It's one thing to download information. It's another thing to apply that information. It feels like we have a more of a sticky concept in your mind if we do that. Because ultimately my goal is to try to get the best results for all of you. So in order to talk about functional energy, we're going to talk about focus. All right. We're going to talk about focus in 3 different frames. We're going to talk about when focus fails and how functional energy applies to that. We're going to talk about focus fix-its. Can you guys see my mouse? I just want to make sure that's good and I'm not just pointing to the air. Can someone give me a thumbs up? You guys can see my mouse when I point to something. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Ying. Thank you, GHC. Thank you, Tong. Okay, perfect. So functional focus. I'm going to give you some tips, some Band-Aid tips on how to fix and improve your focus and functional energy. And then we're going to give you the ultimate solution. What is the ideal through, in our opinion? Okay. Okay. So What happens if you don't have functional energy? What are the symptoms? Let's start there. How does it show up for you? Um, how does it show up for you when you don't have focus? How does it show up for you in terms of what you think is normal? And how does it show up for you when you are tolerating something? What we found in our clinic is that 100% of our patients actually can detect the things that they're going through. The biochemistry tests just kind of support that. But over time, they begin tolerating these things. And unfortunately, the trigger and the catalyst that causes them to take action is when something catastrophic happens. It's when all of a sudden an organ starts to fail. Then your attention is all of a sudden lit up, and all of a sudden now you want to do something. And so identifying the symptoms early is super powerful, and not tolerating them is super important. So where does focus fail? Some symptoms that show up is that you have a lot of distractions. So it's not just having a lot of distractions, because we're talking about optimization, right? We're talking about what is the highest level. When you look at the highest level and you compare there, and maybe these are bad examples, but I can think of some people like Bill Gates, LeBron James, Tom Cruise. Has anyone looked at these people's actual schedules? It's insane. They'll have basically 5-minute increments of their entire day for like 15 hours. And so we're not just talking about, can you focus for 45 minutes to an hour, which that number is taken from Steve Kotler. He's one of the leading researchers of flow state optimization. We'll talk about that later, discussion for another day. But basically the ideal of controlled focus is 45 minutes to an hour. Are you actually taking a break? Do you have the self-awareness to realize your focus is not at 100%? It's like 75%. Catch yourself, have the break, and then have the next level of getting into the next phase of high level focus. So lots of distractions. When you have that feeling of, I just don't feel like doing that. I know for myself and a lot of individuals, they start blaming themselves. They start thinking, I'm just probably lazy. I'm probably just lazy. I don't feel like doing that. I'm just lazy, right? It's dangerous, because then you start identifying yourself and creating an identity around being lazy. And that can be powerful in terms of moving you in the opposite direction that you want. Gut imbalances. Most people do not pay attention to their gut, unfortunately. They are saying now that the gut is as important as the brain, and has more cells in the gut than your entire body in terms of the bacteria. The gut makes up 70 to 80% of your immune system. Let that sink in for a second. The gut composes 70 to 80% of your immune system. Now, when you go to the doctor, how often do you guys talk about the gut? How often do you even think about the gut? I was part of a number of mentorship groups, functional medicine mentorship groups. And it blew my mind when I heard these things. I'm like, whoa, like it's like turning my viewpoint of health completely upside down, 70 to 80%. It's probably something we should pay attention to a little bit more. So gut imbalances, lack of self-awareness in terms of affecting your focus. We went through a number of examples. The example that I have for myself is that I did not connect with that heavy feeling. I didn't know what it was. I just said it was a heavy feeling, feels like pressure. I didn't know how to solve it. I didn't know what my triggers were. So lack of self-awareness can contribute to that failing focus. Medications. A lot of times, if you have ADD, ADHD, attention issues, you take medications to try to supplement that. You throw medications at it. Sometimes you have side effects. But the problem is that there's no objective measurement on it. It's based too much on feelings and thoughts. And we all know, and if you don't know, then I'm happy to give this to you. A lot of us know that thoughts can be fake. If you don't sleep for like 3 days and you have the thought like, oh my gosh, I hate this person. You don't actually hate the person. You just haven't slept much, right? So let's go through a couple cases. This is Kate. Let me just stop again. Does anyone have any questions? We're about to go through some cases now. Welcome to medical school, dental school. For those of you that aren't in the healthcare profession, This is exactly how we go through a case. I always found it kind of funny. They always start with, 38-year-old Black female with ADD has yada, 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 yada. And it's every single case. So welcome to medical school and dental school, healthcare world. So Kate, 38-year-old Black female, diagnosed with ADD. She has anxiety and scattered focus. She has random emotional mood swings. She would basically go into from like anger into happiness quickly, kind of random or neutral into frustration very quickly, almost too quickly. You kind of have a sense for that. Like, is that actually normal? Frequently feeling overwhelmed. And this is a lot of us, right? Chronic skin rashes, serious sugar cravings, bloating, chronic fatigue. The chronic skin rashes might show up as psoriasis, eczema, skin discoloration. The cravings can show up as you just really want that piece of chocolate. You just really want some sort of bread or chips, but you can't explain why. Bloating, when your chest or stomach kind of feels really heavy and it feels like it's getting really big, gassy, that kind of stuff. Chronic fatigue, you just feel kind of burnt out. You feel kind of tapped out. You don't want to be around people. You want to be alone. You want space. You can't get yourself to do things. You can't tap into happiness, that kind of stuff with chronic fatigue. So this is Kate. This is one of our clients. Her name is not actually Kate. That's a secret. We have to change it for HIPAA, OSHA kind of sharing stuff. So this slide here is complicated. I want you to ignore all of the blue and only focus on the red. Okay. Focus on the red and basically two molecules, serotonin and dopamine. Ignore all the blue. That's like level 3 or something. I know like half of the blue. Dr. Din knows all of the blue and all the reactions. So we talked about objectifying this. We talked about measuring these things. How do you know the reasons why you don't feel happiness? How do you know that why you can't control yourself? In my example, I shared with you that I could not control yourself, and I just didn't connect with my family sometimes. I thought it was normal. Well, we bring in two neurochemical modulators known as neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine. For those of you that don't know, serotonin is the neurotransmitter that allows you to feel satiated. It's the neurotransmitter that allows you to feel happiness. Let me say that again. Serotonin is one of the things that allows you to feel fulfillment and happiness. If you are not happy, it's possible you are low in serotonin, right? So I told you I wanted you guys to focus on the red. So what things make serotonin? All of these chemical reactions is basically a formula that makes serotonin. If you do not have vitamin D or enough vitamin D to combine with tryptophan, you can't create 5-HTP and you cannot create serotonin. Mind-blowing stuff. Simple, but mind-blowing. If you do not have iron and you do not have pyridoxal 5-phosphate, P5P, combined with vitamin D and tryptophan as one pathway to create serotonin, you cannot feel happiness. It would be in everyone's best interest to figure out what your levels are, because maybe it's not the dental practice that I'm going through, and maybe it's not my limited mindset that's allowing me to connect to fulfillment. Okay. Powerful stuff. When I learned this, I was like, what the heck? I've not looking at this the right way. Dopamine. Dopamine is known as the neurotransmitter that allows you to have, that allows you to create feedback loops for yourself. It's the neurotransmitter that basically creates willpower. Okay. If you do not have dopamine, you do not have willpower. If you feel burnt out all the time, it's quite possible that you are low on dopamine. It's also quite possible you might have too much. Conversation for another day. This is just one example. So for me, when I fixed my stuff, before I fixed my health issues in this category, I would come home, I'd feel burnt out, I'd almost need space. I wanted to avoid my kids because I had that burnt out feeling all the time. I was basically operating at a dopamine and serotonin deficiency, and I didn't have the biochemistry. I didn't have the biochemistry to do the things that I wanted to do. So just like serotonin, if you do not have these biochemical markers, vitamin D, iron, P5P, L-DOPA, P5P, if you do not have those things, you do not have willpower. You can't create enough willpower for yourself. Crazy stuff. Anyways, I'll stop blowing up my own head here. Okay, so back to Kate. Kate here said that we said that Kate had skin rashes and serious sugar cravings, bloating, and chronic fatigue. Those are some of the key symptoms that tell us, we think we know what it is. So when we saw that in Kate, we were like, I want to order an oats test. Oat is organic acids test. Again, ignore everything on this. This is complicated stuff. Just know that this is called the oats test and focus on the red box, okay? So in the oats test, there's 3 things that we've looked at that gave me and Dr. Din, we think we know what's going on, and our instincts were correct. These 3 molecules, they're hard to say, arabinose carboxycitric and tricarboxylic acid. Each of these things are actually not produced in your own body, but they can show up on tests. Now, why is that? Well, Sherlock, the reason is, drumroll please, something else creates it. Turns out that Kate here has yeast overgrowth in her gut. What yeast does, we said she had sugar cravings. What yeast does, it absorbs carbohydrates and then produces these byproducts, these 3 byproducts, okay? And so when you measure those 3 byproducts, you can figure out whether or not you have excess yeast because you don't produce it in your own body. Kind of makes sense, right? So in this example, this is what normal is, this range, less than 29 units. But Kate has 72 units of it. Why is it so high? Why is it 3 times the normal amount? Same thing with tricarboxylic. She's at 1.3. The normal is less than 0.44. How the heck did she get that high? Well, we now know because of this test, she has yeast overgrowth, and we want to solve for that. If you have yeast overgrowth, a lot of the issues that we've gone over are causing your functional energy to be low, and a lot of her issues like, well, not directly, but it can cause the skin rashes indirectly, and also the anxiety and depression kind of cycles, the mood swings. So on Kate, we discovered that she had yeast overgrowth. In order to help her, we came up with a protocol to kill off the yeast. Normally, it's just not one issue. It's a combination of issues because if you have yeast in your gut, what that typically does, it causes a situation where it increases the number of bad bacteria in your gut and lowers the amount of good bacteria. That's a powerful concept because for you females out there, and men too, because you guys need this as well, there are specific species of bacteria that recycle your estrogen so that you can maintain normal estrogen levels. If you have low estrogen, high estrogen, might be because you don't have the right bacteria in your gut. Pretty powerful stuff. So killing off the yeast, fixing her gut biome, super important for her. Basically, we did that, and all of a sudden she had way more energy. Her skin cleared up, her psoriasis went away, and she was able to maintain focus. Her brain fog went away, her anxiety went away, and the overwhelm started to go away as well. For me, how it showed up, that heaviness feeling when I had low amounts of yeast, but I still was considered having yeast overgrowth. When I got rid of it, the biggest thing was that heaviness started to go away, and then I started to have a stronger voice in my mind. Hopefully I'm not crazy. The voice didn't communicate back to me. I wasn't having a dialogue with the voice. But basically I had more self-awareness as a result. That was my experience. And everyone has a different experience based on their different chemical makeup. What about magnesium deficiency, electrolyte imbalances, gluconeogenesis, and causing sugar spikes, insulin resistance by Parissa? Absolutely. A lot of these things actually coincide with one another. So if you imagine that you have yeast overgrowth, you're craving carbohydrates. You increase the number of carbohydrates that you take on a daily basis, that affects your glucose, which can cause an insulin resistant situation. So a lot of these things actually go hand in hand with one another. And to your point, right? What about magnesium deficiency and electrolyte imbalance? The answer to that is that you have to know what those numbers are. If you don't know what those numbers are, you're just throwing something at the wall and crossing your fingers and hoping that it works, which is why we are proposing, and I'm kind of skipping ahead because of your question, Parissa, there's an ideal solution. You have to measure everything in order to know what the best answer is. Otherwise, you're going to waste time. You're going to waste time figuring it out, or you're going to prescribe the wrong thing. You're going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, jumping in the cold shower to try to increase your self-awareness and your energy. Fun. Thank you, Parissa, for your questions. Okay. So what are some fix-its? What are some things that are band-aids in order to solve some of the things? What can you do? What can you do to help your focus and your functional energy? What might help right now? What is your body trying to tell you? Are you actually listening? I shared with you before that 100% of our patients and clients in our practice, they actually can feel the thing that's wrong with them. But over time, they begin tolerating it until disaster comes, or until enough problems kind of show up to the point where they do take action. So like I shared with you before, there's a biochemical, there's a mental, and then there's the integration. So we're going to go through some tips here. Some focus fix-its, the biochemical approach. You want to look at your GI tract, you want to look at your bowel movements. To keep it simple, because ultimately my goal is to increase your RAS, your reticular activating system. I want you to increase your ability to pay attention to the thing that's important. It's one thing to download the information. It's another thing to take the information and produce a result. So even though a lot of you, I'm sure, are here to like get that dopamine hit of like, oh, I just want that cool thing, it's more important to actually try to improve your RAS, to improve your attention towards the thing that you want, okay? So we're gonna go over a number of those things. So pay attention. I never thought as a health coach I'd be just talking about poops, but pay attention to your poops, okay? How often do you have diarrhea? How often do you have constipation? Are you having your ideal poops on a regular basis every single day? Are you going every single day? Are you going multiple times a day? So paying attention to what's bad and what's good, and the causes of what's bad and what's good is important. Most people will be like, oh, I did have diarrhea, or I did have constipation, or it was a little drier. Still can't talk about poop here. It was a little drier. Sorry, I imagine my son, my son Parker, who's 3 years old now. It's his dream to talk about poop all day. I'm sure that this might be his like passion project, to just talk about poop. I'm living his dream right now. Anyways, sorry. So is the poops regular? Is it not regular? In entrepreneurship and business, they say that whatever you measure naturally improves. So have a diary or a dialogue of what kind of stools that you have and what caused it. You have to figure out what caused it. It's not enough to be like, oh, I had that event. What caused it? What foods did I eat? Did I get enough sleep? Hey, when I fast, I have a different kind of stool result, so that's something to pay attention to. So meal timing, basically what you don't want to do is you want to eat throughout the day. You don't want to eat every hour. A lot of people that are trying to gain weight and gain muscle, they have a tendency to eat very frequently, which there's a benefit to that if you want to like put on the muscle, for those of your weightlifters out there. But you want to space out your meals. You want your body to rest, and then you also want your body to digest. So spacing out your meals allows your body to focus all of its energy on the one thing, okay? Obviously, you want to cut down on sugars. We eat way too much sugar in our society. If you think about back in the day, during the cavewoman times, finding sugar would be a rare thing, right? You'd only find sugar if you like found honey, and in order to get the honey, you had to fight a swarm of bees. Like that would be the only way you obtain sugar. Now we can get sugar hits whenever we want. So cutting down sugar is always a good piece of advice. Improve stomach acidity. Little quick tip here. Try not to drink water when you eat. Okay. Whenever you eat your foods, you want your body to focus on producing acid, stomach acid. Okay. If you drink water, for all your science geeks out there, if you drink water, it's the pH of water is 7, right? Yes, I can get into so many different things with water, but the pH of water is 7. If you drink and the pH of acid is less than 7, it's closer to 3.21, right? If you drink water, you are increasing the pH level, which is a measurement of acidity and basic compounds. If you drink water, you're increasing the basic level of it. You're decreasing the acidity, which makes it harder for your stomach to digest the food. Okay. So if you're eating, try to avoid liquids, or, I know for myself, whenever on a side note, for myself, if I'm eating a food that I know gives me issues, I'm going to eat oysters or clams or something like that, I might pour some lemon on it, right? I might take an HCl tablet or something like that, somehow to improve the acidity, to kill off those things that might give me a stomach ache. Basic stuff: fats, protein, and fiber for breakfast. Oftentimes, the common thing that people do is they eat way too many carbohydrates in the morning. You break down carbohydrates very quickly, and by 11 o'clock, you are hungry. Your stomach is growling. It's because you don't have enough fats, protein, and fiber in the morning. So avocados, meats. This is not a nutrition lecture today, although we can have 3-hour lecture on nutrition. So the last thing is rule out the bad bloods. Get the testing, figure out how to get rid of all of the bad bacteria in your gut. Be careful about taking probiotics. Probiotics in general are a good thing. You can experiment with it. But if you have leaky gut, for example, you take a probiotic, it can actually make your gut worse because it's introducing bacteria that your body's not used to and can cause diarrhea and constipation. So just be careful with certain probiotics. Also, when you take probiotics, you're taking like a general thing instead of like, what specific species of bacteria am I missing? And let me solve for that. So there's different levels to this. So this is Kate. This is very common. There's a reason why depression, anxiety medication has increased over time, starting during the internet age and the social media iPhone age. This graph basically shows us, and I can post the resource in the links if you guys want, if you guys don't believe me. Basically, they measured adolescents and the number of hours that they used their phone on social media. Basically, what it says that over time, the more you use it at once, the more depression and anxiety that you have. We now know through functional medicine exactly why that is. You hear a lot of the times when you watch TV and you look at social media that you're getting these dopamine hits, right? What happens when you run out of those dopamine hits? Ever thought about that? When you run out, you start feeling depressed. You start having that burnt out feeling, and everyone has a different interpretation of their neurochemical state. But basically, if you're watching TV a lot, or you're looking at social media, or you're on your computer and you're enjoying that a lot, then over time, your neurochemistry is all screwed up. You're sapped out. You have your biochemistry of serotonin, dopamine, and your other neurotransmitters. Conversation for another day. It starts to get toasted out, and as a result causes depression, ADD, focus issues, functional energy loss. You're basically spending your functional energy by being on the device too long. Looks like it starts getting exponential around 2 hours. Just kind of a note there. So that was the biochemical approach. And so what is the mental approach, the functional awareness approach? We talked about how we want to improve your relationship with self. And what I want to do is, give me 1 second here. I just have Can't find the thing. Here it is. Okay. Um, Scan your somatic self. Somatic self is the physical movement. Your somatic self is the muscles that move in your body. When I say scan your somatic self, it means you want to close your eyes and figure out what your physical state is. This approach actually got from a guy named Will Duncan. He was my one of my mentors in meditation, and this guy basically did not interact with society for 3 years. He chose to live up in, I don't being dramatic here, but live in the Buddhist mountains or something like that, and be one with nature. And you actually have to train for that. Apparently, he had to train for 8 months to be alone, because the average person, their mind starts to go crazy after a certain amount of time period, because most people can't live within their own mind. I'm sure a lot of you avoid certain issues with your own head. So this guy chose to live in his own mind for 3 years. No human contact. There'd just be like this monk that would bring him food each time. And so he basically did that because he wanted to understand himself. And so he created a lot of different exercises in order to help people become more present, obtain more happiness. And so this is actually from him. I can't take credit for it. This is all his stuff. He actually mentors a lot of like famous people, and he coached and mentored the Phoenix Suns. And actually, interestingly enough, he didn't know this, but the year he coached the Phoenix Suns, they actually went to the finals that year. And he had no idea. And I was telling him, you basically were the reason why they got to the finals. This is basketball, by the way. So, so scan your somatic self. So the exercise is 3 things. Okay. Number 1, you want to sit and scan your somatic self. You basically want to try to observe what your physical body is telling you. I'm kind of tired. That thing, my left pinky kind of hurts. My knee is kind of moving in a funny way. So you just want to get basically a audit of your physical self. And so you want to do this 3 times a day. Okay. These 3 things. So you're going to scan your somatic self. You also want to scan your emotional state. You want to be like, I'm kind of feeling irritable. I'm kind of feeling very happy. I'm having a really good moment right now. So it's a practice in presence. It's a practice in presence. I wonder what that feeling is. I don't quite know emotionally what state I'm in. Pretty powerful. If you don't know, it means that there's an opportunity to get to know yourself a little bit better. And if you can get to know yourself better, you're basically improving your health diagnostics. Okay. Because no matter the test that we run, your own health diagnostics is way more powerful. Your gut instinct, right? Your gut instinct is extremely powerful. People like Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book Blink, and he talks about how an expert can just look at a statue instantly and be like, something's off, right? And then the same person can spend like a week on that statue and write down all those things, but can't figure out what those things are. That gut instinct is incredibly powerful. Gives you a lot of information. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build your relationship with self so you can improve your own diagnostic capabilities. So great. Oh, well, thank you, Tong. You have a wonderful day. I'll send you the recording. So number 1, scan your somatic self. Number 2, scan your emotional state. And the last thing is scan your thoughts. What thoughts are going through your head? What's the narrative that's going through your mind right now? What is the story that you're going through? Okay. So you want to do this 3 times a day. Okay. You're basically building up your relationship with self here. I just want to make sure that I'm good with everyone on time. Last example is Linda. Linda has high anxiety. She has high overwhelm. She has ADD symptoms since college, chronic constipation, brain fog. She takes Adderall. She has focus issues, still has anxiety, has severe insomnia. And what we found out for Linda is that the root cause is that there's certain bacteria causing her own constipation. There's a lot of bad bacteria that do bad stuff. And so for her, we fixed her dysbiosis. That's what they call it when you have an imbalance of bacteria. And we got her off her stimulant medications. The reason why we go over Linda is because back to your question, Parissa, is how do you know it's not magnesium deficiency, electrolyte imbalance? Oh, sorry, guys. How do you know it's that the case? You measure it. You measure it. So when you measure these things, and again, just pay attention to the parentheses because this gets really deep. We can actually measure the state of your dopamine. We can actually measure the state of your epinephrine, pure energy. We can measure the state of your serotonin, how happy you feel. And the only way to come up with the ideal answer is to actually have measurements, objective measurements, where you target specifically what's wrong. So functional focus, the ultimate solution. Can you imagine what good feels like? Again, what are you tolerating? What's good versus okay? How do I actually feel great about things? So functional focus is basically our ideal solution of combining everything that I've discussed today. You must solve for the why. You have to get down to the root cause. Don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, do smoothies and do a cold shower because you have low energy. Actually figure out what the root cause is. Turns out the root cause a lot of the times is through the gut and in the mind. Okay. And a lot of symptoms kind of show up here. So we want to look at the whole body. We want to do a comprehensive approach. And that's why I think Dr. Faustine Din and I are passionate about this, because I come from a coaching background and she comes from that biochemical background. In order for us to stick the landing, you need both. You need both. So in that example of Linda, a person that has anxiety, scattered focus, chronic loose stools, what are the GI issues? That person can have an excess of bacteria overgrowth that can cause, if you have a lot of bad bacteria, they can basically puncture holes in your gut. And as a result, bacteria starts leaking out into the vasculature. Hint, hint, why do you think people have skin issues? Your conventional doctor might tell you, oh, take this medication and it might help a little bit. Take this antihistamine that decreases inflammation, and all of a sudden things might get a little bit better. But what is the actual root cause? Hint, hint, one of the root causes that we found to be pretty common is that you have holes in your gut lining and bacteria are leaking out, and your skin is reacting to the bacteria in your vasculature. Wow, powerful stuff. Mind-blowing. So yes. Oh, and the last thing was the good bacteria make brain chemicals, good brain chemicals, and leaky gut can irritate the brain. So that's why it shows up in these other symptoms. Okay, so just to summarize, and we can send this to you, because at the end of the day, what I'm invested in is I'm invested in you guys not waking up at 4. I mean, you guys can not waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, doing cold showers, doing smoothie, doing all this crazy stuff, right? You guys want quick tips and things that will actually make a difference in your life. So we talked about attention. Attention is very powerful because you can learn all this stuff, but if you do not have the attention, then you're not going to do those things. And so my suggestion to you is focus on the cost of the issues that you're going through, right? This goes back to alignment and airy-fairy stuff, back to the functional awareness part. Why is it that I know I need to exercise? I've set up the protocol to exercise, but I can't get myself to exercise, right? One possibility is that there's a lack of connection or lack of alignment with yourself. Sometimes you can focus on the cost. What is the cost of me going through? What was the cost of me going through not knowing my GI issues and dopamine and serotonin issues for 12 years? What was the cost of that? It had an incredible amount of cost. I wasn't able to connect with my family as much. Me as an entrepreneur, I was not able to reach my full potential. I'm a completely different person now that the lights are on. So focus on the cost, and as you focus on the cost, it allows you to connect with yourself. The biochemical tips, meal timing, spacing out your meals correctly, cutting down on sugars. Don't drink water, or don't drink things during your meals. Focus on your breakfast, fats, proteins, and fibers. Make sure you get rid of the bad bugs out of your gut. Okay. The mental integration tips, measure your focus, measure those things. Back to focus. One tip that I really like is the Post-it notes. I got this from Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. He said that one of his best entrepreneurs gave this tool to him. It was a female that created a company that was worth like $300 million. And he said it was such a simple thing, and he did it, and it had a lot of changes for him. So basically, he took a Post-it note, and I told you about attention and focus. He took a Post-it note and placed it on the bathroom mirror on the one focus he wanted to do to improve whatever he wanted to improve. So if you want to improve your health, for example, you write down on a Post-it note, put it on your bathroom mirror every single day. If you're brushing your teeth and flossing every single day, dentist hat, floss every day or whatever, you'll see it. Your attention will be pulled into that, and all of a sudden that will improve the probability that you'll do the things that you want to do. Okay. Check in with self. So you're going to do the 3 check-ins where you're going to focus on the audit, the self-audit of the somatic self, the checking in with the emotional state, and also checking in with your thoughts. What thoughts am I going through? I put here meditation. I don't have time to go through meditation today, but I could talk about the different styles and forms of meditation for literally hours. Let's see. There was a question here. If you do not drink water with meals, can you substitute with something else if you have swallowing dysmotility? These are big words. Nice. Swallowing dysmotility, and I am someone who always had cereal with breakfast. What can you eat for breakfast? Okay, kombucha, ACV before eating. Okay, so in an ideal world, right when you wake up, and this is conversation for another day, but I'm going to give you some protocols here. You get thirsty during meals. I get thirsty during meals. In an ideal world, right when you wake up, you're going to drink some water. Think about it. For 8, 7 hours, 6 hours that you've been sleeping, you're in a dehydrated state. So if you drink water, that is one of the best things you can do from a basic standpoint to prevent that, I'm so thirsty thing, right? So I would say drink. Oh, I see what you're saying. So swallowing dysmotility. So you need water while you're eating. That's a good point. You can drink the water. I would say maybe drink less. Drinks that have a little bit more acidity can be more helpful, like the juices, although the juices might have too much sugar. So a low sugar drink that has a little bit more acidity in it can be helpful. Cereal for breakfast is something that you can do and something that society typically does. The only concerns that I have with cereal for breakfast is that there's a lot of carbs there. So what can you eat for breakfast? Avocados do really good. Avocados, eggs, protein, fish, some meat. Eggs are a really big and good option. Some people do oatmeal instead of cereal. It's a little bit more substantial, although it's still a lot of carbs. But yeah, stay after a little bit, and I'm sure we can answer your question further if I have not answered your question. Kombucha, ACV before eating. Yeah, it can be helpful. I think you're going down the direction of apple cider vinegar. Yeah. So for those that you don't, ACV is apple cider vinegar, is helpful for your eating. ACV is acidic. ACV allows your gut bacteria to go through the chemical reactions a little bit better. So yeah, those things are better than water. They're better than water. But again, in an ideal world, whatever things that don't decrease stomach acidity is kind of the way to go, right? So, and yeah, just a small amount right before can definitely help. And then there's also a different function with ACV at night too. Okay, so our philosophy, this is my lovely wife. She's so pretty and beautiful. Our philosophy is very much rooted in teaching. I love teaching. It's the thing that drives me. I shared with you that I'm a dentist and a business coach, but to be honest, my passions are in health coaching and teaching. And so I'm currently doing my own work of moving in the direction of kind of building out this own life for myself. And so I say that to say that we are heavily invested into the individuals that care about their health, right? If you're here today, it means that you're investing in your health. You're trying to learn, you're trying to get a different result, or you're trying to improve something. And so as a result, I wanted to introduce ourselves. We are the Gut Hormone Clinic. We have a very functional medicine approach. My lovely wife, Dr. Faustine Din, she exited conventional medicine because she got tired of prescribing medications to people like all the time. She was basically incentivized to prescribe medications, and she felt like it was not the way to go. She was also spending 15 minutes with each of her patients. And it's just like, how are we actually making change if we're spending that amount of time? So in our clinic, we spend an hour, hour and a half with our patients. We connect people with some of the highest levels of testing, modern testing out there. So our philosophy is very rooted in teaching people how they can take control of their own health. Because at the end of the day, you cannot rely on your doctors alone. You have to rely on yourself. You have to take responsibility for your own learning. We can't detect for you the experiences that you go through, because that is incredibly important data. Okay. So our philosophy and our process combines the biochemical, the mental, the coaching, and the awareness pieces in order to get the best result. And so what is the most important resource? We're making the argument that most important resource is the functional energy focus, So how do you manage these things? How do you solve for these things? What are the next steps? How do you know you're doing a good job? So in our philosophy, we want to give each of you a gift. And so we want to thank you for coming here today. And so our gift to you is basically a free consultation with the lab test if you guys want. So basically, these lab tests are very expensive. And normally when we do charge for these lab tests, we run a business. And so we actually have a bit of a markup for us analyzing these things. But for you guys that were here today, and I know that some of you weren't able to make it, if you guys watched the video and if you guys watch the video, then we'll send it out to you guys. And if you guys have any family friends, we can also send it to you too. Then for the next 2 weeks, if you guys sign up, we'll give you the lab test at cost. We don't make a penny on it. It actually cost us $350 to run the oats test to measure your neurochemistry and biochemistry. It detects whether you have yeast overgrowth or bacteria overgrowth. It measures your brain chemicals of what is affected, and we can go through some simple answers for you guys. So for those that you have showed up to this event, because we understand and realize that you guys are trying to invest in your own self, and we want to support you on your journey there. So this is completely at cost, and after the test, we'll do a consultation with you on it. So if you want, you can email us. You can visit our website, guthormoneclinic.com, and request an appointment. So, and also if you guys want an email of the summary sheet, just let us know. We'll send that to you as well. So that is all I have for you today. I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Just unmute yourself. For those of you that have to go, I know I've taken an hour of your time on a Saturday. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you guys for investing so heavily in your own health.